Welcome to Illuminating Catholics, podcast of the Diocese of Sioux City. I'm Dawn Prosser, Director of Communications for the Diocese. Together with Carmen Bauer of the Faith Formation Office, we will shed light upon topics of faith in the modern church. Our guests include Catholic clergy, religious sisters, and other experts in their fields to help us understand what's happening in the church today. We will explore issues, even the tough ones, and to find answers to common questions about Catholicism. Thank you for joining us for today's Illuminating Catholics, shedding light to understand the modern church.
Welcome back to the Illuminating Catholics podcast of the Diocese of Sioux City. I am Carmen Bauer, the Director of Faith Formation.
And I'm Dawn Prosser, Director of Communications.
Thank you for including us in your day. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. In our studio today, we welcome Tim Swedean, the new Executive Director for the Siouxland Catholic Radio station based in Sioux City. He started his position just a few weeks ago. We also welcome Tony Michaels, Director of Marketing and Outreach for the station, who is a bit of a newcomer to the radio station. So welcome to Tim and Tony.
Thank you, folks, for having us today.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you coming in. So, some people may not know who you are, so let's start with Tim since he's brand new to the position. If you want to share with us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll bring you in, Tony.
Sounds fantastic. I'm a native Siouxlandian. Went to Bishop Heelan High School, graduated in 1979, which gives you some indication how old I am.
29.
Your math,
bad at math.
Your math is fantastic.
Very bad at math.
Went to the University of South Dakota and got a degree in accounting. But that wasn't the most important part of the degree in accounting. It was meeting the most beautiful person in the world, and I was lucky enough that she decided to marry me. So, very lucky to have her in my life. And I have two wonderful daughters who are professionals, have families of their own, and I'm grandpa to 5 grandchildren. So, worked through several ownerships of CPA firms over the last 35 years. Sold my firm in June of 24 as I was diagnosed with leukemia. Oh. But the treatment is going well, and I'm very, very happy to lead as Executive Director of Siouxland Catholic Radio.
Very good. Sorry you had to have a diagnosis of leukemia to bring you to this spot. But
80 hours a week doesn't work with leukemia. So
probably
it was one
not.
of those things in the accounting profession. You work a lot of hours, so this is a much more casual pace than I've used to be.
Meant to be. And Tony, Mr. Michaels.
Thanks, Don. So I came to Sioux City in 1997. I was born in Omaha, Nebraska. Went to school at Nebraska-Lincoln, where I met my lovely wife in Lincoln, and then moved up here for a corporate radio job in 1997. And I left employment summer of 2023 to take care of my oldest son, Trey. He has autism. He's pretty involved with his autism. So we decided that one of us should probably stay with him in the house. And so I chose that route. And then it was the day after Easter Mass 2024, I got a call from Joanne Fox, who's the board president, that asked me if I wanted to help out with baseball broadcast. And then I stepped into marketing in August of 24.
Right. And I'm sure no one can tell from listening to you that you have a career in radio.
I grew up, the radio was always on, and I worked at a couple different jobs, and I always said I wanted to do radio, and they said, you don't have a chance to do it. And I did it for 26 years, corporate radio in Sioux City, and then in Lincoln before that, and in Omaha as an intern. And then I've been very pleased to help out with Siouxland Catholic Radio.
Very good. Yeah.
Well, I think it's excellent to have both of you bringing in so much experience, life experience, professional experience. So as you look at your journeys, especially working in the secular field, raising your family, how do you, find yourself in this position now where you work for Siouxland Catholic Radio, and what does that mean to you in your life?
Well, it's been a very interesting path, to say the least. I've always been pretty involved in the parish life. Parish lay director, finance council, parish council, 4th degree knight. My wife is a cantor. We are in our 3rd generation of kids going to Heelan High School. So we're very, very blessed in that manner. So Catholic has always been not just really a part of our life, but it's more of our definition. Mm-hmm. And that's more my wife Lisa than it is me. She's just the glue of our family and pretty much the focal point of the faith in our family. But I still love following the Catholic faith. So it was natural to find something Catholic that I would retire with, something as a semi-retirement job to lead me into full retirement. I have a 30-year friend who was by the name of Don Stevens, who was a board member on Catholic Radio, and he asked me to consider this role, and the fit seemed really simple. It just seemed like this made a lot of sense, knowing that I've never been in radio before, but I've sold accounting services for 30 years, so I do understand the concept of sales, personal care, making people happy, ensuring that the customer is taken care of. That's always been a focal point in my accounting profession, so I can apply the same concepts to the underwriters in the radio profession. So it was a journey of honor. It is very humbling to know that as a station, we can affect the lives of listeners. That's very important to me. Also wanted something where my services would make an impact. Not going to just go through the motions, but truly put a stamp on something that would affect people. So that was a very important piece of this journey as well.
And Tony, how about you?
I grew up in Omaha, very religious mom and dad. I went to Holy Cross Elementary and then to Omaha Creighton Prep, where loved it there. And I don't have the Catholic resume of Tim. I did work in corporate radio, and so for me it was really kind of almost like a calling that because your mom and dad are always big influence, and they want to push forward that import of the Catholic faith, and I'd say I'm more on with the Catholic faith than off over the last 4 decades. But it was just it's kind of a little story. I went to Easter Mass, and then I didn't feel very comfortable at the Mass that day. Some things happened. I won't get into it. And then I was leaving. I was kind of dejected, like I kind of wanted more out of this Mass setting. And then it was the very next morning that I got a call from Joanne. And so to me, it was kind of God's way of reaching out. And I felt very included at Siouxland Catholic Radio. And although it was through sports, which is not the main gist of the programming, but it is kind of the outlier. I knew the station from sports, and then I know it extremely well now for the more core base of the Catholic faith.
And that's beautiful, too, just to consider, even sometimes when we don't always feel that maybe on our outward perception will be, maybe I'm not that big Catholic, or, that Catholic resume you mentioned, but, God uses us all, and, He's inviting us to all listen to His voice, and sometimes, that takes place interiorly, and we don't always project that.
It's really funny because it reflects back on my childhood a little bit, in that my parents were very much churchgoers, and we went to church every week, but my mother was just addicted to Fulton Sheen. Just addicted. So Dawn and I probably are about the same age. So as she would listen to Fulton Sheen every day, Tim, be quiet. I've got to listen to Fulton Sheen. So every day was exactly that concept. She was going to listen to Fulton Sheen, or it wasn't a full day. So that concept hasn't carried forward with me, but it is interesting that we have Fulton Sheen on Catholic Radio every day except for a couple, and that really brings back my childhood memories.
Oh, I love that. Fulton Sheen is one of my favorites, and my poor children are also. They're like, who's that? We're listening to that man again. So your mother can encourage me to continue.
My mother's passed away, but she's probably turning in her grave knowing that she told me about that. So.
And he was such a forerunner of using the medium of the day to get the message out. And then, of course, Bishop Barron sees him as a role model.
Totally get it. And so much of what he says is still applicable today.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it isn't something that was just 50s relative. It's definitely something that would apply to today's concepts, for sure.
Too bad this is audio and we can't put a video on how he swung around.
Yes, this theatrical. Yeah, you missed the theatrical when you don't.
I do have a picture of Father Michael Cronin with the spin, and he had a cope on.
Oh, that's great.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, I'll send that to y'all after the show.
I'm sure he would appreciate that.
I'm sure he would.
Well, looking now that you are at Siouxland Catholic Radio, how does that Catholic identity present itself to you throughout the day in times of prayer and as you move forward?
I think it presents itself in the form of the tenets of Catholicism. Sometimes, as the day goes on, you forget about the tenets of forgiveness. You forget about the tenets of what we, hear in confession, to repent, to not recommit the sin that you've already committed, to try to repent and become a better person. That identity of Catholicism is really what drives me, is to realize that even though some days people wrong me, I need to go back the next day and forget that and forgive them for what they've done. Forgiveness is a huge part of what I've tried to do. Secondly, I would say is gratitude. I just said this to the team this morning, that for our customers, our underwriters, for everybody who sponsors us, expressing that gratitude is very important. Just like expressing gratitude to God for what happens to us is very important. That's a really integral concept of what I'm trying to accomplish, very much so.
So, Tim, your new leadership role, and remind me when you started. It wasn't too long ago.
It would probably be about July 1st. No, it should be May 1st.
May 1st.
Is about
Whoa.
the time frame. May 1st.
May 1st, then, when the bishop was ordained.
Right. Very close to that.
So you've had a little time to get settled in your role and figure out your people and so forth. Can you share with us a little bit about what you feel your vision is for the station moving forward?
Obviously, in a period of transition, we have a new bishop and we have a new pope. So it is important for Catholics to be informed and cognizant of the changes that are taking place with the quote-unquote new management. So I think it's very important for Catholic Radio to lead that and begin to focus on what changes are taking place either locally or nationally, what different readings, if you will, from the Pope in his speeches that he makes, in his homilies that he has, should we take to heart, and which ones maybe are different than what the previous Pope had. So I think that's probably the first thing, is just recognize that we are in a constantly moving state of transition, and especially right now. Some of the things that we want to do excuse me, is help people begin or renew their relationship with God. Like Jesus, I hope that we can inspire the lost sheep. I hope that that Catholic who has lost interest, that parent who has a child who's not going to church, that borderline faith carrier who still needs a boost, or that person who's in a troubled marriage. All these people that are on the borderline, can we provide some incentive for them to go back to the church, go back to God, to understand what a faith-based life means? That's going to be very important for us to find that lost soul. We're not going to change and evangelize every person, but if we can evangelize one person and make a change in their life and how they live their life, I feel that's a success. And that's where I feel we might be better at. The next avenue is education. We feel like our largest affiliation is with Heelan High School Sports, so there is that tie to education. But our largest group to educate is that base Catholic population. We want to make sure they learn about the Catholic faith, learn the catechism, just generally become more informed Catholics. And I think we can provide that avenue. Just like you do with the Lumen, I think we can do a good job through the media of providing a more informed answer and a better informed Catholic person, which I think is very important. The next piece would be ensuring that we touch to all things Catholic here in this local community. Trinity Heights, Catholic Charities, Diocese of Sioux City, Holy Spirit Retirement, and all the parishes. We have to make a difference. Again, we talked about making an impact. We have to make a difference in those Catholic organizations, and I think we can do that. Lastly, I'd say we want to build a sense of community, a belonging within Northwest Iowa. And again, not just Catholics, but all Christians. So we have the visibility and the acceptance of the Catholic community. Like everybody understands who we are and what we're trying to provide. I think those are going to be very important points.
It's interesting when you talked about people, and we're all in a different place in their journeys and different stages of our faith. And the study that just came out that 50% of people surveyed have some connection to the Catholic Church, be it fallen away, married a Catholic, right, so forth and so on. So you have a huge potential audience then in that respect. And talking about educating, and there's infinite things to know about the faith. And I of course, go to Carmen when I need information, but
Oh my word!
she's my
so she is the
expert.
catechism expert.
Oh, yes.
She is.
I would not say that.
She's a lot more than Dawn is.
Well, if I ever have a catechism question, I'm going to go call her.
You can give me a call. We can explore together, too. Explore and ponder.
You got it right in front of you, don't
Yes,
you?
yeah.
The book that you look it up.
Oh, man.
But you should have no shortage of fodder for material and content. So just look at those two aspects.
Oh, for sure. What kind of feedback, can I ask, do you receive from listeners? Do you hear from people often about what shows they might enjoy, what impact you're having? Are you ever blessed to see the fruits?
That's what we asked for last night on the baseball game last night. We asked for feedback.
Yeah.
We don't get a lot of that. We get some. Most of it's obviously, why did you cut out this show for Healing Baseball? Those are going to be the feedbacks we get. Because honestly, people get into routines. They get into very normal routines. Example, we have a mass saying at 7 o'clock in the morning. That is on our radio. And we repeat that at 9 o'clock at night. Now, why do we do that? Well, think if you're that parent that has 4 kids. 7 o'clock in the morning, everybody getting ready for school, everybody getting dressed, everybody getting ready for daycare, whatever. You don't have time to listen. But maybe 9 o'clock, everybody's in bed. Maybe everybody has time to do that, to listen to the Mass. So you will see that one of our biggest spikes in listenership is that 9 o'clock hour.
Interesting.
It is interesting and we just consider that to be that 25 to 40-year-old parent who can't listen in the morning, but can listen in the evening. The other feedback we get is probably more, yeah, we really like Teresa Tomeo. Yeah, we really like particular pieces of our programming that are very applicable to their lives. And I think that's a really important piece to the equation. What we're selling is stories. And the stories that they tell on their shows can maybe be applicable to your life. How did this person get their child to go back to church? What did they do? I mean, because I think those are really lifelong, applicable recipes for finding a better answer. Because, I mean, I know several of my friends have that problem. They're 60 years old, but their 35 to 40-year-old child just doesn't go to church, doesn't have a faith life at all. And they pray, that 60-year-old prays every day, that hopefully they'll find some level of a story or some level of impetus to get back to the church. That's a hard answer. And many times those stories that are applicable in the Ray Grandy show or the Teresa or the Catholic Answers with David Anders find the real solutions to those problems. And hopefully that's one of the things that we can maybe provide is, again, we come back to the lost sheep and maybe providing a better answer for that lost sheep.
But it's a widespread issue, I would say. Our age and the adult children and
Yep.
many falling away from the church. So it's a real concern.
Yep, and that formation that you mentioned, that educational, part of that can be so helpful for parents because you don't know what questions your kids will ask on their way back. So I think, even if you can't give them the answer, and we know that it takes God's grace, to invite everyone back and for people to respond to that grace, but to prepare ourselves for those conversations because we don't know when they'll happen.
The answer is very simple. The answer has always been and always will be prayer. That's always the answer. So that's just prayer that something will click in their mind that I've got to go back to church. Hopefully. Again, I have so many friends who have this issue.
It is an ache on a lot of people's hearts.
It is. And you just pray that God's grace somehow will provide that benefit somewhere. And I don't think it's lightning striking. I think it's something that is an incremental change in their belief. Maybe they've had a series of bad events. Maybe they've had a series of events that have led them, wow, maybe I should have more of a faith life. It's different for different people. It's a very unique path and journey. So I think it just depends on the person to see what's going to click with them.
Absolutely. Well, for those who, maybe don't listen to Siouxland Catholic Radio all of the time, or maybe haven't given it a chance, or might not always be aware that it's out there. Tony, what is your elevator speech? What might you say to those people?
I tell you what, it's if you give the station a chance, I think you'll find the positive reaction. Our station logo is change your station, change your life. And so for me, coming from the corporate world to this type of radio, it could not have been more of a complete 180. And so when I was on a commercial radio station, it helps to be bombastic, have a huge personality. What I learned with this job is that I listen a lot more. And so we have a show called Symbols of Service where we talk to those in religious life. And I work with Dawn pretty closely on arranging guests for that. And so we could have someone like Sister Marie Hesed, who worked with Mother Teresa of Calcutta. And I can't remember a single interview I ever had with an artist that worked with Mother Teresa for 21 years. And so those stories were just incredible. A younger priest and Father Zachary Jones, his perspective is different than some of the retired priests we talked to. And to me, it's fun just to have those different backgrounds. And same thing with Joanne Fox and Faith in Action. She talks to local individuals for 50 minutes about a local topic you're not going to get anywhere else. Campus ministry professionals, Draw Near with Fred and Kara. And so for me, I'm drawn to those local programs that kind of augment what we get with EWTN. So you can't experience that, though, unless you turn it on. And I'll be honest, 18 months ago, I was not a core listener to the station, aside from occasionally getting a football score for Heelan. And so my buddy Travis did that, so I tune in for the friendship for him, But it's funny when you get involved with athletics. For me, it just kind of segued nicely into the other programs that Tim was talking about with EWTN, and especially those local programs that, like you, we turn into podcast and have a second life that way as well.
Why not?
So, yeah.
Well, and there are so many different kinds of shows, to choose from, and so it's on your website. Do you have a list of the shows and descriptions, for someone who might want to know what might be the best time? We
do, as a matter of fact. So Tim, every week, I don't know if you have the same thing at this office, he gives me a to-do list. And so one of the first things was updating our program guide, and so that should be up by the time this posts, and so you can see what happens on a daily basis. And we're making some, I think, healthy changes that will just be more consumable for people that might want to try it. And like I said, if you try it for a day, a week, I think you're going to notice that maybe some of the noise of the outside world gets tuned down a little bit, and that you can find your inner peace. You can draw closer with your spiritual life. We talk to priests, deacons, sisters that give you tips on how to improve that. And so that, I think, is fascinating. No one else to this extent is doing it on a daily basis like the station Siouxland Catholic Radio. So, I'm definitely a convert over the last 18 months, but I think I'm smarter. I'm definitely, my spiritual life is much better. And I was altar boy of the year in 8th grade, so my mom is very happy that this, because she would always listen to the corporate radio station I was on, and then when I left, it's kind of like a void. And this has been a nice kind of second act for me.
And I will say, I'll put in a good word with your boss. Tony writes one heck of a press release.
There you go.
It is clean.
Not too many words.
It's succinct, and it's...
Tony is a wonderful addition to Catholic Radio, for sure. We love his sports reports, and he does a wonderful job of keeping us in the marketing area. He does a wonderful job.
Excellent. So he's going to get a raise.
Well, and I think going back to that feedback, if you are a listener of Catholic radio station, Siouxland Catholic Radio, make sure you do send them an email saying thank you. It's not an easy thing to pull off for, Sioux City to have our own local Catholic radio station. So if you are a listener, I'd encourage you to reach out, say thanks, let them know what you enjoy, and just show your appreciation and gratitude and prayers, of course.
I think that's wonderful. I mean, we do appreciate that we have the local community around us here, and we do appreciate the listenership that we do have. Always trying to increase that, for sure. But I think the beginning of more listenership is getting us more visible, because I think there's a step process to this. The first step is getting visibility or accessibility to public. The second one, maybe they become a listener. The third one, maybe they become a donor. But we don't get the third if we don't get the first two.
That is
So
true.
we have to get the visibility out there. So if you haven't tried Catholic radio, please do make the attempt. Go out to the website, pick out one of the programs that might be attractive to you. Whether you're a political person, go to Teresa Tomeo. If you're truly a Catholic catechism person, go to David Anders. Find what your buzz is and try to find the attraction that you might have to it, and just try it for one show. That's all I'm asking. Try it for one show, and you might see that you might find a second and third show that you like to.
Tony, what is the website?
Yeah, that's SiouxlandCatholicRadio.com. And another kind of a God wink story here. So I had a good buddy that was going through some struggles in the late 90s. He got through it by going to his local priest, Father Harold Cooper. And so fast forward a little bit, the station was started by Father Harold Cooper. And so I thought it was funny that I listened to all these stories about him in the late 90s. And then later, I kind of feel like I'm still working for Father Harold Cooper, though I've never met him. And, he's been passed away for quite some time now. But his legacy lives on. And it was so difficult to start the radio station. There's a book that was written by Joanne Fox about the struggles and how it was not an easy thing to do. But I just think about someone with a dream that kind of had that in the back of their mind, and then I'm benefiting from that dream, being able to come to Siouxland Catholic Radio and be part of the mission. So another kind of full circle moment that I was just kind of listening to a friend in the late 90s, not knowing that, it would impact my life a quarter of a century later. That's definitely the long waiting game. Got to have some patience.
That is true.
He started Trinity Heights, and he also started this radio station. So, the impact he has affects so many people in this community. We don't expect to make that type of impact. He was a visionary person who created a path that nobody else could follow, except for Beanie. Beanie followed him up a little bit with it, but we don't expect to make that type of impact. But again, if we can affect one person today, one person tomorrow, maybe 10 for the week, that's what we want to accomplish.
Good goals to have. So I want to just repeat, SiouxlandCatholicRadio.com.
You got it.
That's the website. We'll put it in the show notes as well, so people can go there and access and listen to what they're interested in. So thank you so much for coming in, and a great opportunity to introduce Tim, even though I think a lot of people know who you are, but in your new role, it's nice to have you come here and just give us a little bit of your vision. And again, Tony's not an old hat yet. He's still kind of new, so appreciate you both coming in and sharing with people what you do for the faith and spreading the good word. Fulton Sheen to be proud.
Both Dawn and Carmen, we really appreciate this opportunity very much.
You're most welcome. Most welcome. And we both wish you all the best as you continue to share that good news with your listeners. And thank you all for following Illuminating Catholics. Please subscribe to the podcast on your podcast app, or you can follow us at lumenmedia.org to listen to each episode. And if you're traveling this summer, don't forget to take us with you. You can listen to the latest episodes and catch up with any that you missed.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Illuminating Catholics, shedding light to understand the modern church. Follow us for more episodes on topics of the Catholic faith. For more diocesan news, visit lumenmedia.org.